So your person-centered thinking training is coming up, and we're really looking forward to working with you. We put this presentation together so you can get an idea of what to expect. So person-centered thinking is centered on the person. Your organization, and the reason why you're coming into this training, is that we want to be better at looking at the world from the perspective of the individual and really deal with ways that we can keep that focus and that lens in all of the work that we do, because there's so many things that we do in our work that sort of brings us to a systems perspective. So let's look at and dedicate some time to what we can do to get really good at providing support to people. The main purpose of the training involves two things. One is our intent is to provide better support as a result of the learning that happens in this introductory person-centered thinking training. And what that means by providing better support is it's defined by the person. So whatever they identify as what, when, where, and how they're going to be supported, that's what really should be at the top. And we're talking about personalizing services, making it oriented and individualized for people, so personalized from their perspective. The second thing is that we want to get better at the work that we do over time, better at being person-centered. So how do we do that? Well, it involves intentionally learning. So person-centered thinking, the learning that you're going to experience in the workshop, will give you skills to get you good at learning about how the person wants to be supported. And that differs from different people, right? And it also differs from this with each one of us over time. So those are three things that we're looking at here: intentionally learning, setting aside time to do things well, writing it down, and then sharing it with others. So if we record it, we're able to share it with others. We want to record it in a way that's easy to share with others. And the reason why we want to do that is that we want to certainly make sure that everyone is consistent, right? Because there's a lot of people who come in and out of somebody's life. And if we are able to share our learning, we can get better altogether. So getting better at it over time, what does that involve? Well, it's the person-centered thinking skills. So our training is developed by the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices. What we've identified is there are certain skillful ways of acting that help us learn about the person so that we can orient supports around them in an individualized way. And what we've done is identified those over time, we've described them, and we've given them titles. And then we train them similarly wherever we go. So the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices is an international organization. The training that you're experiencing and the person-centered thinking skills that you'll learn is duplicated around the world. So when you learn the person-centered thinking skills from this workshop, you're learning the same thing as somebody in Sydney, Australia, somebody in Ontario, Canada, in Vancouver, in Santa Barbara, California, in Texas, in Montpelier, Vermont, in England and Ireland, and in India. You're able to then speak with people after you've learned this and be able to ask them about what their experience is, how they're doing with their skills, and learn something from each other. That's why we call it a learning community. So this is presentation right now is just to let you know how we're going to do that. What can you expect in our introductory training? So this is how we're going to do it. So it starts with this idea that in order to really know how to support a person in an individualized way, we need to know what's important to them right now and how that's unique to them. And we need to also know what's important to them over time. In other words, continue to return to this idea. So what do we mean when we say important to? It's actually a very specific definition. So we're talking about what's important to people we support, and what's important to all of us as individuals is the people in our lives, the relationships, our family members, our network of connections. Also, the fact that we have certain roles, that's important to us. and our status and having control over our lives. Things to do and places to go. So the things that we do every day, the things that form into routines for how the week looks, or how we celebrate holidays, how we start off our weekends, how we celebrate, and so on and so forth. Those are also important to us, and it's different from me and you. Also, the things that we have, the things that we collect, the things that we like and appreciate in terms of collections or our certain way of organizing our ownership of property. So we need to discover this on a continuous basis, discover it for each person, and recognize that it's different. It's never prescribed. It's never something that we say, well, I know what's important to you because you're in this category. And we don't want to generalize like that. We want to be curious and intentionally set aside time to discover what's important to a person in a skillful way. So now let's talk about those skills. So there's a set of skills that we're going to be teaching. And what I'd like to do right now is just run through them in terms of naming them for you. We won't go into detail. That's what the training is all about. But let me just tell you what they are, and by the end of the training, you'll know the definitions, and you'll have a little practice, both in doing it with another person and also having a person work with you on it. So that's an important part of our training, is that you walk away with personal experience. So here goes. Here's what they're called. There's a relationship circle. There's working, not working. There's communication chart. There's good day, bad day. There's the 2-minute drill. There's routines and rituals. There's the learning block. There's the donut sort. There's 4+1. There's reputations. And there's matching support. So that's quite a few skills. Don't worry, you don't have to memorize them now. I just want to give you a sense that these are the things that the learning community has identified as specific strategies that work, and we have a way of teaching you. If after you go through the workshop, you'll actually be able to put those terms into a web browser, and you'll get examples of them. And you'll also, as your organization becomes more connected to the learning community for person-centered practices, you'll be able to adopt ways of communicating with people around the world to find out how have they tried to do these, and how have they refined them, and get better at it over time, learning from people around the world. So what's it all about is these are techniques for learning what's important to a person. So we're always returning to this question of what has this skill informed me about what's important to the person? How has that evolved as a result of me using this skill today? So you're going to be learning all of those, and then collecting that information about what you've learned and what's important to a person, recording it in a way that's easy to share with other people. And that's an important step in this. What's also important to understand is as you go through the workshop, you're going to learn each one of these, and then you're going to have specific people in your life that you'll bring into your thoughts and say, I'm wondering about how each of these skills work with them, and you'll likely experience what everybody experiences, which is you'll say, well, some of these make sense for the person I'm supporting right now, and some of them don't, so I'm not sure. And you can rest assured that the person next to you, your other people who are your fellow participants in the workshop, will be thinking the same thing, except they're going to be thinking it about different sets of skills. In other words, while you're going to learn all of these, you're not going to use all of them every day with every person you work with. that too is individualized. So you'll walk out with a sense of also an ability to say, I'm going to try certain of these with people. Some of them will work, some of them will not. They might work better at one point and then not so good in the future. So let me give you an example. Let's say we're talking about somebody who uses a wheelchair to get around. Let's say they use a communication device rather than using verbal language for communication, and they need some assistance in helping to get dressed also. So what you'll find is some of these work, like the communication chart is really super for them. Others are not that a big deal for them. And you might find that just 3 today is what works really well for them. You might be providing support to a toddler. And mom and dad might find that a set of these work that's different than the other person. Or you might be providing support to a person who's aging and needs extra assistance. Again, a totally different combination of your person-centered thinking skills might work today. So, you're going to learn all of these. It's going to be a lot of information. But as I was saying before, the purpose is you're becoming skillful and going through an intentional process of discovery about what is important to the person and recording it in a way that's easy to share with others. You're going to see this form, this particular way. This is one way that we've discovered is easy to share with others, is this format where essentially it's a description of what's important to the person. You continually add to it. And then what you see below is what others need to do to provide best support to me based on what we've learned what's important too. So that's clarification that you can provide it as an individual, share with others, and other people can add to it. So it's often valuable to, as you go through that process and say, what did this skill teach me about what's important to the person that's kind of new, to be able to reference the fact that important to includes all of these elements. Again, roles, status, control, the rituals, routines that the person has, how they experience or prefer rhythm or pace of life, the things that they do, the things that they have around them or like to collect, the way that they deal with loss, and how do they comfort themselves when they're feeling stressed. So having that available and being able to reference and remind yourself, particularly when you're first starting out, so that when you're asking this question, have I learned anything new about important to, you're thinking in these new categories. So that's it. So your training is coming right up. We're, like I said in the beginning, we're really looking forward to meeting with you. In the interim, what you can do is take a look at the website for the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices. Here's the address. It's www.tlcpcp.com. So that's the initials for the Learning Community for Person-Centered Practices. See you soon.